You can buy pre-stretched canvases in almost every hobby store and art supply store, but what happens if you can't find the exact size you want? What if you don't like the quality of the frame or the texture of the canvas? And what if you've already made a painting on a piece of canvas and now you want to frame and hang it? Today I'm sharing a tutorial showing you how to make your own canvas from scratch. My name is Alex, I'm a professional artist. Let's get started. Step 1. Determine the size of the canvas and wooden frame. You may already have a certain size in mind for your painting, or you might be planning to hang it somewhere specific in your home. Whatever the case may be, figure out the size you want for your final painting, then add 5 centimeters on all sides, then mark it up on a piece of canvas and cut. If you've already made a painting on a piece of canvas like I have, then you'll need to measure 5 centimeters in from all sides, mark that up on the back of the painting, and measure how large the frame will need to be. Now that we have our measurements in order, it's time to start constructing the frame. For this part, you'll need to buy some wood, corner brackets, and screws from your local hardware store. Raw materials like this are actually really cheap. You will also need some tools to build your frame. You can get away with pretty basic tools, but if you have a couple of power tools, it will save you some time and trouble. Start by measuring up the 4 pieces of wood according to your measurements in the previous step. Cut them at 45 degrees angle and make sure that the angle on each end of every piece is mirrored, not parallel, otherwise they won't fit together. Then sand down the ends and mark the position of the corner brackets. Next, you'll want to drill pilot holes for the screws. This will make it easier to get the screws in. When you attach the corner brackets, don't pull the screws tight right away. Leave them slightly loose so that you have some wiggle room to make final adjustments before you lock the corners in place. At some point, you may notice that one or more corners are a poor fit. If this happens, mark up the uneven spot and sand it down until it fits properly. If the painting is small, it doesn't have to be a perfect fit, but the bigger the frame you want to make, the more important the stability will become. If you're making a really big canvas, you'll need to create a supporting grid of cross beams to ensure that the outer frame doesn't bend or warp. Once you've put your frame together, you may want to sand it down a bit if the wood is very rough. It will make the next step a lot more comfortable and splinter-free. Step 3. Attach the canvas. For this step, you will need canvas pliers, a staple gun, and possibly a hammer. Place the canvas on a flat surface and position the frame right at the center with a 5 cm buffer on all sides. If the buffer is any less than 4 cm, you will really struggle in this step and you may have to redo it all. When attaching the canvas, you'll typically want to start with one staple at the center of each side of the frame and work your way toward the corners. From the first staple, continue diagonally from one side to the opposite side, rotating the canvas as you go. This ensures that the canvas stretches evenly onto the frame. It's a good idea to keep an eye on the previous staple when you stretch the canvas to attach the next one. If you pull too hard, you can accidentally pull out the previous staple. If that happens, you'll need to hammer that staple back in, but if it completely falls off, you'll need to replace it. To avoid the situation altogether, you can put a finger over the previous staple so that you can feel if it's being pulled out. During this whole process, make sure to check the tension in the canvas regularly. When you tap it with your fingers, it should sound and feel like a drum skin. Now it's time to do the corners. First, identify which sides are which sides are going to be your up and down, and which sides are going to sit on the side. This is important in order to get the best looking corners. I personally always fold the corners in such a way that the visible fold sits along the side of the painting. Here's an example of what the corners will look like once they're done. This painting was made to hang in portrait view, and as you can see, the fold sits along the sides and the top and the bottom edges of the canvas are pulled neatly over it. This isn't the only way of folding corners, but it's the method I was taught back in art school, and to this day it's still my preferred method. Start folding the corner by tucking the canvas in along the side. You can tuck in as much or as little canvas as you like. It changes the position of the fold so that you can put it exactly where you want it. Personally, I like the fold to sit close to the top where it's less noticeable. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to tuck the corner in, especially when the canvas is small and the staples on the side sit close to the corner. I use one of my bookbinding tools here to make it easier, but you can use a ruler or any other flat object that you have. Just make sure your tool isn't so sharp that it risks damaging the canvas. Here's our first neatly folded corner. Pull it with the pliers and attach it with the staple gun. Then pull the top over and attach that too. Be sure to put a staple right at the corner, but be careful with your fingers. And there it is, 1 corner down, 3 to go. Let's do this one more time in time lapse so you get to see the folding process once more. And that's how you build your own canvas from scratch. I hope this was helpful and that you learned something new today. If you did, please spare a moment to like, subscribe, and check out my channel. I share art-related tips, tutorials, and my own artistic journey. Stay creative, and I hope to see you again soon.